Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dying time is here. That's right, we're talking about Final Destination 3 on Kill by Kill. Well, greetings and salutations, Internet. It's your old pal, Patrick Hamilton, coming to you once again from... They never tell us. Is it Sawsville, USA, Canada? It kind of feels like it. This is the Kill by Kill podcast, where we're dedicated to celebrating the least discussed component of any horror film, the characters. And we're going to unpack all the goriest of details of Friday the 13th, Final Destination 3, in the hopes that a young graduate's untimely end is just the beginning of the jokes that we might make at their expense. As always, there's only one person I trust to make sure she's tied down that horse before we have a kebab. The one, the only, Gina Radcliffe. How are you doing today, Gina?
I just want you to know, Patrick, that when you die, I will make sure to show up at your funeral with a PSP.
Oh my God, I wrote that down. It's like you're in my head. I did wonder, how is he going to enjoy that PSP? Is he just going to slip it into the casket? Or is he going to be, if he's going to have his remains consumed by fire and remain but ashes, is he going to put it, on top of the urn?
Lewis isn't a bright boy.
This is true. He's got a lot of muscles, though, in all the wrong places. But we will get to that. I don't want to alarm you, Gina, but we are not alone. That's right. We have two very special guests. You might know them from their own show, Inside the Idiot Box, but I know them as two of my oldest friends. The ones, the onlys, Dennis Satterfield and Scot Burklin. Welcome to the show, boys.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, thanks for having us. And I just want to go on the record saying all of my muscles are also in the wrong places. So.
That's true.
I feel a kinship with this movie.
Yeah, that is the only thing that ties you to the things behind this motion picture. And so, as is tradition here on the Kill by Kill pod, when we are talking about a franchise, we like to know what our guests' experiences are with that franchise. I'll go to you, Dennis, first. What was your first brush with Final Destination?
So the first time I watched a Final Destination movie is when you messaged me and said, hey, do you want to be on the podcast?
Really?
Yeah. I have zero familiarity with this franchise, other than I know that it exists.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And I'm glad that I slipped into the third installment.
Oh, that's the best way to do it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, with the third one's generally when things get going, when things start cooking, when, the formula is in place. And so all you have to do is just have a bunch of young people show up and have them killed off in various ways. Even though the last one, all the young people were killed immediately, and we were left with bereft adults.
You did say young in air quotes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have things to say.
They're young in terms of Canadian actors. And Scott, what is your past relationship with Final Destination?
So I gotta say, same as Dennis, names reversed. Yeah, this was my first experience. I'm a huge horror fan, and this series, for whatever reason, had just never been one that I had gotten into. And all of it I know about through horror pop culture. Mm-hmm. So I had a fair amount of awareness on it, and even knew some key plot points from the first two. Mm-hmm. But 3 is, honest to God, the first time I've sat down and watched one.
And what a watch it is. I mean,
what a watch.
To, put a little history behind this, and there's not much to it. But the first one is you've got 2 X-File vets who are just hot. The industry's like, these people know what they're doing. And they take over a script and they refine it down and they make that first Final Destination movie. And it's gangbusters. They go away for the second one. They don't want anything to do with it. And the director here, James Wong, decides to make a movie that I enjoy, but probably not for the right reasons, called The One with Jet Li. in which it's a multiverse movie in which he does a lot of karate fights with himself.
He is the one.
He is the one. And that was roundly ignored by the movie-going public. They didn't want anything to do with it, despite having Jet Li at his kickingest. And so they go back to the drawing board, and they end up being a part of a movie called Willard. And Willard is actually directed by Glenn Morgan, his partner. But
was this the Crispin Glover Willard?
This is the Crispin Glover, which I remember fondly. I have not watched since. Gina, you're a fan, though, right?
Yeah. I actually enjoy it a lot.
And I think it knows what it wants to be, and it's very good at being a Willard movie. And I think that kind of surprised at the box office and did pretty well. But they're still on their back heel, as it were. And so when New Line comes to them and said, hey, you're working with us on Willard, why don't you just take a stab at the script for Final Destination 3? And so they write the script, and Wong likes it enough that at this point he's like, you know what? Why don't I just direct it? Because I know what the script is. I know how to make these movies. Maybe we make it in 3D. They decide not to do that. They just go forward with the movie they have in 2D. And this is the result. Wong would go on the same year to release Black Xmas, which we have covered on the show.
Right.
And that is fucking tight.
Well, I like Scott and Dennis. This was actually the first time I'd watched this movie from beginning to end as well. After the first movie, I kind of thought to myself, I get it. I get the point. And I basically just watched the highlights of the movies, which of course are the spectacular death scenes. And so I knew going in, about the tanning bed and the nails to the back of the head and all that. And then I sat down and I was amazed that that's all there is. Like the other hour and 10 minutes that's not people being horrifically killed is like a blank. It's static. like there's not a drop of effort made in establishing who these people are, where this is taking place. Okay, there is a headstone that says 2005, and also I think one of the tanning bed girls is supposed to be kind of riffing on Paris Hilton. So that's the only thing that really places this in any sort of real time and place.
Sure.
Just like it is like a delivery system for just these kills.
Yes. And it's weird that these two decided to go in that direction, because the first film has characters. The second film has characters. And this movie has a character and bodies. Just bodies with hair and some clothes, but always enough midriff that you see everything from the top of the pubis mound till about the belly button.
It's trying. One of the notes that I made when I was watching it was it's almost hitting like some of the Scream archetypes in the characters, but then it just doesn't. That is the story of this movie: is it starts things and then does nothing with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting that they have, every horror movie, certainly, and then there were none kind of set up horror movie, has, one character that's kind of an asshole the audience is happy to see die. This movie has two, and that's all you can really say for them.
One of whom becomes a villain out of nowhere, which we'll get to.
We'll get to that. It's weirdly just like these people fit into various molds, but they're never really trying to make them any more than that. They just like port over, a dumb blonde stereotype and someone out of an American Pie direct-to-video sequel. and they just like arrive in this motion picture and they're put in these situations, but we never know them. And they barely know each other is the other component, which is sort of a carryover from 2. Whereas at least in the first one, they're aware of one another. They may not all be friends, but they're aware of each other's existence. Here, they're I would say even less aware of one another's existence.
Yeah, it's incredibly happenstance how they all end up in this, same situation together.
Yeah. And at this point, it has become quite clear to me that Final Destination has got to be one of the widest ass franchises in horror history. It is just massively the caucasity of it all. Everyone in the film looks like they have graduated from Disney Channel High.
Wait a second. They have one black guy. Give him a break.
True. That is a fact. They have one black guy.
And the actor's name is Texas Battle?
Yes. Great name. Great
Fantastic name. Oddly enough, not just a character from a Key and Peele East versus West college football introduction sketch. Yeah. A real person who had, I don't know if he still has a career, but had a career for quite a while.
That's a name.
Texas fucking Battle.
That's a name you give a child if you want them to grow up to be a professional wrestler.
Yes. or it's the name you print on a T-shirt if you can't get the rights to the Alamo. Texas Battle.
When you can't afford the Alamo.
One wonders if the Texas's parents said everyone will remember this kid's name, Alamo, and the doctor's like, I'm sorry, that's copywritten. There's no way that's going to get passed.
Damn, everybody remembers the Alamo. Thought we had it on lock.
I'm just hopeful that's the real name and he never changed it. I'm obsessed with Aloe Black and the fact that his birth name is Egbert Nathaniel Dawkins III. Because I feel like if you're born with that name, damn it, you keep that name. So mad props to him for keeping Texas Battle if that is in fact his real name.
Let's run through our characters ever so quickly. They're introduced to us as they're at some sort of graduation night at a theme park, which is also a county fair, but has permanent roller coasters.
Yes. And a guy who just dances around aimlessly on the midway as entertainment, which what Carnival doesn't have that.
As far as a character interaction goes, random guy just dancing seems like I'm not spending a lot of money. Like, is someone running him? Does he have a set list that he goes out to, like, for this 15 minutes?
Yeah, what are his set times? Like, does he, how long are his breaks? Like, I wonder all these things.
Does someone from entertainment, like, check on him, like, throughout the day? Or he's just randomly out there grooving. He's the second black character. We have to revise our statement.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he doesn't have a name, though.
No.
Well, do we get points for Tony Todd? No.
Yes. Tony Todd shows up as a vocal performance after appearing on screen the last 2 times. Last time he got a smoke-filled entrance, and this time he's just voicing a giant devil statue and is behind the mic of a New York City salsa train. I don't know what that is.
Sure. Yeah.
But it's not as Canadian as the train in Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. It does seem to be trying to evoke New York. Not sure.
Cleanest graffiti I've ever seen.
It's very true. So let's start with Wendy. Wendy is our protagonist. She's a total control freak who would not be able to handle having a dick for a boyfriend like a normal girl would. She wants a normal guy with hair that just goes where it wants to go. That's the kind of girlfriend she is. And of course, she's, the only one who kind of comes out of this with a career because it's Mary Elizabeth Winstead. She's a real actress who is able to portray emotion on screen, and she is rewarded for this. And I'm going to reveal this now. This, I believe, is the core behind this film. One of the filmmakers involved in this gets off sexually by having blood splash on her face. There's no other reason that 5 separate fucking times in this motion picture, she has gore splash on her face. It's a weird thing that a lot of the deaths here involve blood on her face for
Yes,
extended
I'm
periods of
glad
time.
I was not the only one that noticed that it's strangely sexual.
Yes.
the way it's portrayed in the film.
It is odd why this, and it keeps happening. Like, she's able to shower off, unlike the last movie, Gina.
I was just thinking about that. Yeah, she does not stop to take a bath.
In a high school, you know, the place we all
As
like
you
to
do.
take baths. In high school, she's allowed to just go home and maybe wash her face off in a restroom nearby. But the next place she goes to, she's getting a face full of blood again. And it's around the third time, I'm like, this is a thing for someone. And we need to find out who that person is.
The third time when she approaches someone to tell them what's going on, I feel like she should have like some sort of like face shield on.
Yeah.
Just come very, very precariously come up to them. Or stand about 10 feet away. Hey, you're about to be killed.
Why are you standing so far away?
Yeah.
I'd come closer, but this is a new outfit.
I'm sorry.
It does give her a lot of motivation to look at things and gulp, though,
Yeah.
which is she's very good at.
Yes. Yeah, she's trying. She's trying to fill this in with human emotion, but it would have been harder for her to do with a welder's helmet on. But I feel like that would have saved her a lot of, the ill will of this motion picture, constantly splashing her with gore. And I don't know. We'll get into it as we go, because every other death, I'm like, what the fuck is going on with her and gore in her face? All right. So Wendy's boyfriend, Jason, we don't need to really know who he is.
Wait, why not? Why don't you want to get more intimately?
His hair really knows where it wants to go, and he ends
it.
up in the front of a roller coaster that crashes. And that's it. He doesn't. He wears a jacket. He has a shirt on. That's about all we learn about him.
My notes were doughy-faced blonde guy, Wendy's boyfriend, question mark?
No.
It is up for debate. And then his friend is Kevin, who's a sexually repressed potato given the gift of life from a terrible blue fairy. And Kevin has a journey. He goes from someone you hate to someone you hate who seems to, maybe if he lived, might become half normal, but truly starts this movie on a heinous note.
Well, and he and Wendy hate each other.
Yes.
Don't make any mistake. We never see that, but it gets said a couple of times.
I mean, his behavior demonstrates that he is not a person that she would like to spend time with. And I, for one, resent the fact that I have to spend time with.
Well, they do start him with taking upskirt photos. So,
Yes. And then indicating.
not in the best light.
And then indicating that he would buy more yearbooks if they possessed upskirt photos inside of those high school yearbooks.
It's okay. They're all 30.
I'm just telling you, Kevin dies. But if he did live, he would own NFTs right now.
Oh, for sure.
100%.
And then we have Kevin's girlfriend, Carrie. Carrie is going to break up with Kevin in a few weeks. And then we learned that Kevin was going to propose to Carrie. So they're living very parallel lives within their high school relationship. He's like, I need to get married right out of high school. And she's like, I need to dump this asshole, but I want to get through graduation first. That's her priority.
It's kind of sad, too, because we, the audience, learned that when Carrie and Wendy are talking to each other. And later on down the line, when I guess Wendy and Kevin don't hate each other as much and they're starting to sort of get along and chat. Yeah,
Yes.
he sort of, in remembrance of Carrie, says, I was going to propose to that girl. And we don't really hear, I guess we were supposed to feel bad about it. I kind of
I don't know why.
didn't feel bad about it.
Well, because they spend so little time developing these characters. It's like, oh, all right, you were a couple, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, take our word for it.
I guess good for Carrie for dodging that bullet and dying.
Yes, she's saved by a roller coaster
He
accident.
took the easy way out, is what you're saying.
And well, she wasn't one to confront uncomfortable situations. We learned that much about her before her head smacks into iron. Anyways, Wendy, we learn, is taking photographs for the yearbook with a very tiny, old-fashioned digital camera.
And for some reason, it does make sounds like an old-timey flash powder camera.
Yes.
Which they never quite explain.
Right. At one point, they introduce a photograph of Lincoln. And I'm like, did they take the photo with the same powder-based flash?
Because that's what the noise was.
Yeah, that's why
it all makes sense now.
Every time she takes a digital photograph, it's very odd. But how else would you convey that she's taking a photograph?
That's true.
People wouldn't know otherwise.
It's like the record scratch these days, where a lot of people don't know, what it is, but they know what it signifies.
Exactly. So she's taking photographs, and she looks over, and we're introduced to the asses, really, of Ashlyn and Ashley from Dust to Dust. And on Wednesdays, they wear pink. And if they wear sweatpants on any other day than Friday, you can't sit with them. Those are the rules.
The names did make me laugh. I will give them that. I was like, Ashley and Ashlyn, that's funny.
I think there was a first draft to this. 100%. Like, these two guys know how to write a fucking script. I just don't think they had enough time to give it that final polish that really solidified. It's not egregious. This is not a terrible movie by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, I would even call it maybe my second favorite, which I shudder to say out loud, and yet it's true.
Because don't we have like 5 more of these to go?
No, there's only 2 more. And the next one is the worst by every single measure. That's going to be a real Nightmare on Elm Street remake style episode. I promise our audience, because
I did listen to you guys talk too, and that did not make me want to go out and watch it somehow. I feel like I got what I needed to get out of the podcast.
Yeah, they just don't do anything for me, and I can't really put my finger on why, because I understand these are very popular with other horror fans, but I'm just like, I guess.
I think they don't overstay their welcome. They're not.
Oh yeah, I mean
bad.
that's definitely for this movie. One high point is it's like zip zip zip. It does not waste a second on anything. It just gets right into it.
And as a series, the simplicity of the concept is so brilliant. It really is a great concept, and that's a little bit where this film nosedives when it nosedives. Is trying to make it more than it is, and just not keeping it simple, which is, that is what appeals to me about this series, is just the simplicity of the notion of it.
Here's the good news. I've located a second motivating factor, a through line throughout this motion picture that clarifies what it's really about deep down. And that's women's underwear. This movie is fucking obsessed with women's underwear to the point which, and other points in the movie, they just will go through a person's bedroom and there's a pile of underwear there. And you're like, why? What? We've all seen women's underwear. It's not that fucking cool. It's okay. I like the women attached to that underwear more. But this movie really wants to examine what were women wearing under their pants and skirts in 2005. And you get all the fucking answers.
They were grounding it. Yes. That's where the realism comes in.
Yeah.
I think that women's underwear, probably not that interesting, but blood-splattered women's underwear?
Oh.
Now you got me.
Jackpot.
Now you got me.
So they're all going to go to a roller coaster. And if there's one thing that I feel like, maybe this movie gets me, and that is they are prioritizing a fast pass. They understand the power of it, and they want to make the most of it. And so on their way to the roller coaster, Wendy's continuing to take pictures for the yearbook, and she bumps into Julie, Wendy's little sister. And by little, I mean she's 25.
When Wendy is like, what are you doing here? You haven't graduated. I'm like, she hasn't?
College?
Yeah.
She is her younger sister, so she's got to be like, let's assume 15 or 16.
Oh,
And I'm like, who are you fucking kidding, movie?
Yeah, they're Irish twins at best, but also like the only thing she hasn't graduated from is like with a doctorate. She's not youthful in that way, and that's fine. That's the reality of the movie, but it is a little odd that they are very insistent that they be in high school.
I must say this: the first 15 minutes of this movie, when I watched it the first time, because I had to watch it a couple of times, kind of glazed me over. So I was hard to kind of pay attention and focus on who was who. So when I saw Julie again at their house, for some reason, I thought she was the older sister. And you're not going to fault me for making that mistake, because I you know what? I'm going to look it up on IMDb right now. I want to see who out of these two actors are older.
Settle this once and for all, Dennis.
I'll get back to you guys.
Well, no, I had the same issue of the interchangeability of everybody, and it wasn't until the second viewing that I started to pick up on who was who and what was happening.
The real signifier for our audience that they need to know is that when Julie is introduced, she is dressed like Rerun from What's Happening.
Jeez.
Not Rerun from What's Happening Now.
Yes,
well, there's an important distinction. This is distinctly a What's Happening era rerun. She looks like she's about to throw her arms out and do a little dance. She's got a jaunty cap, and she won't be the only one. And it is at this point that I began signifying what band were these people chosen from. Like, they all seem to be some 2000s era power punk person, and they've been plucked out of each of those individual bands and placed into this movie in a fictionalized fashion.
Well, in keeping with the scriptwriter's desire to, keep the audience at arm's length from getting to know these characters in any appreciable way, Julie's most pressing characteristic is that she is angry all the time about something.
Yes.
She twice, gives the double birds to a character because, she does not like being told, hey, you're not supposed to be here. Even when several people have been horrifically killed. Yeah. She's just constantly has an attitude at all times.
Another beheaded individual is Frankie. He was the aforementioned American Pie sequel character.
You got to go full name, though, Patrick.
Oh, that's true. It's Franklin C. Cheeks Esquire, I believe. Frankie Cheeks is his name. And he declares, we're told that he graduated 2 years before everyone else, but is exactly the same age as everyone there.
Yes.
And if I were to sum up his character, it is that he probably has a framed Britney Spears first Rolling Stone cover, and he's framed it, and he's put it in his room, and it's probably not clean.
Yeah.
Then we meet Erin, who is a redhead, and I'm sure she has other qualities, but I'm not sure we're ever shown that on screen. So there's that. And then I'm going to guess that what they cast Ian based on, he's our resident death-obsessed, unconvincing goth, is that the producers pointed at an album cover of Buckcherry and stated, I don't know, we'll take one of those.
Yeah, you want to put big old air quotes around the word goth.
Yes.
My note on Ian was discount Jamie Kennedy.
A steep discount, which is saying
all the Jamie Kennedy, half the calories.
Jamie Kennedy given a dye job. And so now all these people, including Lewis, the character we mentioned before, who's a big tough guy who hits a mallet. I don't know, who cares? They all go to a roller coaster. They all go past everyone else who's in line because they have a fast pass at this county fair. And we get to see a lot of that queue. And guys, I've seen some shitty queues in my theme park experience, including that one at Islands of Adventure at Universal in Florida that's just a red hallway. It's just, you take a left and there's a red hallway. And you're like, you didn't even paint this? It's just a red hallway. This is worse because this roller coaster is devil themed, but there's a lot of skeletons.
Yes.
Yeah.
You got to choose one in my mind. if you listen, I'm pro skeleton. We are a skeleton plus podcast. We enjoy skeletons, but if you state up front that this is a devil themed roller coaster, I don't want to see a bunch of skeletons. That's not making anything cool.
Well, I figure this is the new hell that they're pitching here, because when they get to the load platform, somebody gets directed to row 6. And they do this slow dolly in on the 6. And I was like, did something change? Like, is just 1/6 the new 666?
Yeah,
I missed it.
I kept waiting for like another 6 to appear.
Totally.
I'm like, not a 6. Because you encounter
it was upside down. It was really row 9.
People encounter the number 6 on a daily basis. It's not something that immediately strike terror into one's heart.
Yeah.
The queue does give us the opportunity, though, to see a lot of scary things about, like, the track is separating and the bolts are loose. And don't worry, none of this will play into anything that happens in the movie, but we're going to tee it up for you.
Yes, there's a lot of loose bolts that seem scary. But
and that's the thing that kind of I didn't understand. Wendy actually saw this. It is explicit that Wendy actually saw the bolts loose and the track separating.
Yeah.
And at that point, still went forward to hop on the ride.
Yes.
At this point, whatever happens to her after this point, shame on her.
Yeah,
I don't feel bad for her at all.
The other thing is,
you had your chance.
Yeah, Ian is some sort of paid advocate for the theme park industry who goes about trying to convince her that nothing bad could ever possibly happen within the theme park. And that's true, with the exception of my career. Nothing bad has ever happened in a theme park. But the setup for this grand accident that she's going to flash through is that they try to put a over-the-shoulder restraint on Lewis, and apparently it doesn't fit Texas Battle's body. And the pushing down on it is what causes a leak, which will then not factor in very much to the actual crash, because the actual crash is caused by a camera on the tracks. Is that physically fucking possible? Can a piece of plastic destroy roller coaster wheels?
That seems like a significant design flaw.
Yes.
A video camera that has a magic reverse film strap attached to it.
Yes.
Which is how it finds its, way onto the track is.
What I love is
lovely Frankie Cheeks drops it.
It hits like the track and then it's like sound like
exactly.
someone doing like one of those rock flinging weapons where they like you can hear it. It's like a whip cracking sound.
Yeah,
this thing wrapping
bolo.
around the bolo. Thank
you. It wraps around the track like fucking Indiana Jones whipped it out. And it's just cracking at Nazis left and right. And somehow this manages to take out the brakes of the roller coaster, and then at various points it separates off the tracks. People just fly out of the thing. I guess what happens is that pneumatic fluid from those shoulder restraints, which lower themselves. Who the fuck approved this?
The great thing is that all of the deaths get teed up in ways that don't pay off. So in this death fantasy premonition that Wendy has, at one point, this piece of the track breaks free and it's a pipe and it's clearly meant to be something somebody's going to get impaled on.
Yeah.
And they go back to it like 2 or 3 times going, hey, that impalement device still there. And then by the time somebody flies out and hits it, I think it's Kevin, he rips in half, like it doesn't impale him. And that's a great encapsulation of this film, is it directs you in a way and goes, yeah, we're not going to pay that off.
Yeah, that was Chekhov's impalement device.
It was. Once that pipe's on stage, boy.
The crazy thing is someone does get impaled and someone does get torn in half. And then Kevin miraculously gets torn in half in a way I still don't understand. We will get to it. In comparison to 2, which I think its greatest strength is the death premonition. It's very simple. It's very well done. And the movie struggles to keep up with how good it is after that.
Yeah. And it's one of two times they do it in a way that gets you to think that it's happening. So it really is a reveal when you realize, oh no, it's Wendy's having a vision. So they do that part very well.
But she realizes that this is going to happen. The gum that Kevin pulls out from underneath the roller coaster car and gets on his fingers is proof that vision is going to come true. She freaks out. They release the back half of the roller coaster. Her boyfriend and Kevin's girlfriend are in the very front car. They are not released. But everyone else has been let go out of this roller coaster, and they're pushed out because they're yelling. And someone's like, well, if there's a disturbance, what we need to do is get them the hell away from here and just start that roller coaster up, which I'm not sure is standard operating procedure. But
there's other folks that wanted to hop off the roller coaster after all the commotion. And when like the rides manager comes out, I think he says something like, nobody else gets off that ride. Like, does he get paid by the passenger?
I was wondering what the economic driver was of not just pulling everyone off and loading the fucking roller coaster with a brand new set of people.
Yeah.
But listen, I don't work at this fucking theme park. I don't want to work at this theme park.
Not if they operate like that.
No.
And so they're all dragged off, and by the time they make the back alley behind the roller coaster, of course, the terrible thing has happened, and they're like, oh no. And we just flash forward to rainy days.
So here's my question. So if it isn't the video camera, because Frankie is one of the people who gets off the ride, what caused it? Was death just like, well, fuck it, let's just say the bolts came off?
Is my question. If the video camera does not take out the rest of the brakes and it's just a pneumatic leak, right, that is not exasperated by anything else, how does the roller coaster crash?
Yeah, why don't you just lose Lewis, let's say, and nobody else, because he's got the jacked up, restraint. So.
Right. So, like, it's been pressed down on him, I guess. But we don't see that happen. We just assume it happens. And then without a video camera to take out the braking system and start the wheels coming off, how does the rest of the fucking road? I'm sorry. This movie should be illegal.
That's why.
In some countries, I believe it is.
As a common mantra on the show, we do not come to these movies for realism. But when part of the shtick is, these are the things that happen to make this crash happen, and then they don't fucking happen. They're not part of it. Like the airplane in the first one, I get. The logs are still going to fall off that truck in the second one. This, I just feel like you need a second draft. So we learned that months, or not even months later, because they haven't even graduated yet. That was grad night.
Yeah, they don't really establish like how much time has gone by.
I got the impression it was like a couple of weeks. Although everybody else seems to be they're over it. They're good.
Yeah.
It's graduation time. Time to move on.
Right.
The only person that's still upset is Wendy.
And she's so upset, she'll walk in the rain. She doesn't even care. She doesn't need an umbrella.
I thought it was like very soon after, because she goes to the school, goes into her locker and takes the picture of Jason off of the side of her locker and throws it away
with her textbooks.
She just gives up. So I figured it was like almost immediately after.
Take that, learning.
So she throws away her fucking textbooks. She keeps a trapper keeper and then wanders outside. And Kevin's like, hey, come on. Like, we should talk. And she's like, no, we shouldn't. I don't like you. My boyfriend's dead. Your girlfriend's dead. She was going to break up with you. And at some point, he goes like, well, wouldn't they want us to attend graduation? And she's like, I don't know. If they're all up in heaven with Gandhi and Lincoln, why would they care if we attend graduation? And so my question to all of you is, name 2 people you would rather hang out with in heaven than attend a high school graduation. I'm going to go first. My answer is anyone. High school graduations suck.
Yeah, I guess you don't need the excuse of hanging out with celebrities like Abraham Lincoln and Gandhi.
Yes. Two people, totes in heaven. Not even sure Gandhi believed in heaven, but she's determined he's probably up there.
Gandhi would definitely be in the same heaven as Abraham Lincoln.
If there's a comedy god.
So wait a second, Gina. Are you proposing there are segregated heavens? Like, are we talking about like Mormon planets where everyone gets their own? Because I did that, and I was like, at a certain point, I'm like, I gotta bounce. This is too fucking weird. Even
Mormon planets would be a great band name, by the way. Dibs.
Listen, we had our chance to start a band, and it turns out I have zero musical ability.
I think I'm gonna name my band "Hanging with Lincoln and Gandhi in Heaven."
I thought you were going to say Hanging with Frankie Cheeks.
No.
Or is that
Thank
your
you.
biography?
And so we meet up with Julie again and her two friends. One of the friends will actually come into play later on, but I didn't know that at this point. I didn't remember it. But that the one that comes up later goes, "Look who I got to sign my yearbook," as if this is an achievement. Like, think of achievements. Complete an Ironman marathon. Climb Kilimanjaro. Get Neil to sign your yearbook. It somewhat comes up short.
Yeah, I was like waiting for it was former President Barack Obama. No, it's Neil.
I know there's no one way to grieve. And we all process loss in different ways. But I think Wendy's process might be the most annoying. It's a lot of crying and blaming other people for her not doing enough to rescue more people off the roller coaster that she had a premonition about, which again is not grounds for getting followed by the police, but that will happen later on as well. Again, for the third time.
Oh, the police are terrific in this. I have so many notes.
The police love to chase after kids who had premonition about death. That's what I've learned from Final Destination. I don't know if they're going to handcuff the Grim Reaper. I don't know what the fuck's going on there.
But they're on the case. That's the important thing.
Yeah. And we learned that Kevin has done research about what happened in the first movie. And Gina, we've confronted this many times where we have newspaper reports about what happened in Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street. My kingdom for a fucking website address where someone has written a lengthy BuzzFeed article about what happened in the first movie, Gina.
Yeah, just treating it like it has been accepted in the universe of these movies that this is some weird thing going on where if you cheat death, death will come for you later.
Well, that was my note, was like, what prompts Kevin, they all live through a tragedy, granted, what prompts Kevin to do the research that leads him to the story about 180? Like, seems very not motivated by it.
Yeah, like what is the story of 180? That it blew up and then it turns out one of the survivors had a premonition, then later that survivor died. They would not report on the premonition.
Yeah. I don't know where they would get the let's report on the premonition part.
Yeah,
the
they would
other
report
thing might end up an article.
At the most, it would report on the tragic, the tragic follow up that the person died in other accident like a year later.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and this becomes even more of a plot point later on behalf of Wendy, and I'm sure we'll get to that. But I think. Patrick, you said it, I believe, in the episode you guys did on Megan, that it's like when you're simple, when your concept is simple and you just keep it moving, like you never have that time to think, well, how would they know this? And if this, what about this? And that's what this film does poorly, is it gives you just enough of maybe we'll get into a little bit of what's going on, which makes you think about it, and then they pull back from it. So.
Well, yeah, they expect that anybody that would watch this movie is already well versed in the Final Destination lore, if you want to call it that, and does not need. So they don't need an establishing scene like in the other two, where the character goes to talk with Tony Todd and realizes that death is a sentient being that is chasing after them because it doesn't like when you interfere with its plans.
Wait a second. So I didn't watch the other ones. I thought this whole thing was about a haunted camera. That's not what this is.
That's a new thing. Like they also like to they also without really explaining anything, they also like to tweak it with every new movie too.
Yes. And so they're like, you know what I like? The Omen. Let's just like pull from The Omen. And so they do. But it wouldn't make any sense if they didn't tell you what happened in the first two movies. And they go out of their way to do that for no particular effect. And Kevin just doesn't strike me as when he says, I did my own research, that he actually did research.
Oh, he's one of those.
Yeah.
I did my own research on those vaccines.
Oh, dear. Maybe he went on www.highschoolrollercoastertragedies.com.
He went to that Wikipedia page of like amusement park accidents.
Yeah, where somebody that wrote it had a premonition and they died and they actually died.
Dennis, are you squatting on that domain?
Oh, God. I've had it for like 17 years.
You sunk a lot of money into that domain. Like,
yes.
What is your business plan to get out of the tremendous financial hole you've put yourself into?
Well, I'm still trying to sell it off.
Okay, to who? What is the market for this, though, Dennis? I've been wanting to talk to you.
It's narrow, but when it pays, it pays.
Yeah, I guess.
Scott, we talked about this before. This is an intervention. Would you please keep on topic, Dennis? For the love of all of us, we gathered here today. I made you watch Final Destination 3, but really what this is about is you need to find a way to sell that fucking website, okay? It's not gonna happen.
I can sell it whenever I want, Patrick, okay? I don't have the problem. You have the problem.
I do have a problem.
I would just like to yes and that, Dennis.
Thank you. I was wondering why all the doors were locked. I'm not allowed to leave.
Yes. Well, it took a lot of preparation, but as part of the ruse, now we have to talk about the rest of Final Destination 3. So, during this sequence, we're told by Ashlyn and Ashley that they want to look their best for graduation. And of course, the one graduation you want to look your very best for is one where a bunch of kids died in a roller coaster accident. So what are you going to do? You're going to go to a tanning place so we can see some more underwear.
You owe it to them to be tanned.
Truly. That's what they're worth. That's what they sacrificed. They died for your ability to get that tan. So we have a long lead up to this in which we meet a person of Eastern European descent who's having a continuous argument with her girlfriend. And he has to do it outside. I'm not sure what that's about, but he goes outside. This will come into play later. But here is the Rube Goldberg device for the way that Ashlyn and Ashley die. One of them turns up the thermometer to 73 degrees. That causes the slushy that the other one brought in there, and she wasn't supposed to start the cup starts condensation. That drips down onto an electrical control for the tanning beds that we're seeing multiple times not to go over 250. And here's a spoiler alert. It goes over 250.
Yeah, they are rotisserie chicken.
So the HVAC starts blowing cold air in there, right? Because even though they set it up, things are getting hot. That air blows over a coat rack, which knocks over a CD shelf off the wall. That shelf locks both tanning bed doors in place so they can't get out. And now the tanning beds then cook those two women alive, even though Ashley is still wearing her underwear because her boyfriend likes tan lines.
Two things. Mm-hmm. One, much like the roller coaster that can malfunction if a small piece of plastic falls in the tracks.
Yeah.
I feel like now I've never used a tanning bed. That would not work out very well for my extremely pale complexion.
Sure.
Do they lock? Because I feel like they shouldn't be able to lock.
Well, there's not a lock built into them, but the CD shelf is actually what is wedged between the two.
Okay, so it's actually just holding them shut then. It didn't activate a lock on it. Okay.
You cannot raise it because the wood is keeping them in place, and they can't push hard enough because they're trapped inside of UV ovens, basically.
And they really tease this bottle of tanning lotion, I guess, that gets caught in the door. Yeah. And, ejaculates all its contents onto the sidewalk. And I'm like, okay, are they teasing that this guy is going to try to get in and slip and fall and just crack his head open or something? But no, it doesn't. It's just a weird little, it kind of zags on the audience, and ultimately that does nothing except cause the door somehow to fall shut.
He has to keep it open. He's keeping it open with a Coke can to begin with, and then can't find the Coke can when he goes back outside, and he puts that plastic squeeze bottle of suntan lotion there.
This movie is all about the proud tradition of things getting wedged in other things.
It's very wedge-based as a horror film. There are very few wedge-based horror films. This is totally one of them.
So, horribly racist tanning proprietor aside, I did respect how everything in this establishment has a specific warning label on it telling you not to do the thing that ultimately happens.
And they violate every single one of them.
Including, they get the little eye things that you're supposed to put over your eyes when you do it.
Yeah.
And in like giant letters on the side of the thing that sanitizes them, it says danger flammable. And I was trying to think, like, the last time I went to the barber, like the barbicide that they put the combs in, like, did that have a big label on it that says danger flammable? Because I feel like maybe not, but now I'm wondering, was I in danger at the barber?
Well, wait a second. Why do they put the things that you place over your eyes in flammable liquid before you put them over your eyes?
Yeah, that's not important. The important thing is they label it.
Okay.
Yeah. Alcohol and eyes go together like ham and cheese. Like that's something everyone does.
Yeah, there's a lot of violations going on in this tanning salon.
This town could stop its teenage death problem if they just had someone inspect businesses.
Do they not have like a Department of Labor coming in and inspecting these businesses every now and then?
Yeah.
And tell your 30-year-old teenagers, follow the labels.
Yes.
They're there for a reason.
You've got a gym with these Aladdin swords pinned to the wall.
Sake. Gina, don't get me started on that.
We're gonna get started on that when that character's death comes. We got to take it one character death at a time. Otherwise, we'll never get out of here.
While we're on the twins,
yes,
we also are flashing back to Wendy because her spider sense is tingling or something.
Yeah,
and her spider sense is tingling via a bobblehead Joey Ramone. And so that made me wonder, is that going to ultimately be the reveal of this series, that bobblehead Joey Ramone is death? Because that would rock.
That would rock. That at the core, Rock and Roll High School is a secret Final Destination prequel. I like this idea. Or that the actual prequel is just the music video for Pet Sematary. The famous Ramone song, I Don't Want to Be Buried in a Pet Cemetery.
To completely sidetrack, I worked in a movie theater that summer, and I made sure to always sweep that theater at the end so I could hear that song. Best end credits ever.
So these two die, they're buried, and during their funeral, Ian starts to do crowd work in the midst of a chaplain's speech at their funeral. He decides hit the clock, new rules, and he starts riffing, baby.
It's Ian's tight five, everyone.
Lewis complains that their funeral is, quote, boring.
Yes.
What are these people doing here?
I don't know. They don't know each other.
Again, in establishing nothing about these characters and who they are except maybe classmates. They don't seem to like each other. It's like, okay, why now are you going to each other's funerals?
Their children all go to the same school.
Yeah.
They know each other from the pickup line, and that's
exactly
really where you begin to build community. Including Franklin C. Cheeks Esquire is also there.
Yes.
Mourning the loss of these two's breasts.
We're getting to see his humanity in the scene, I feel like.
And he begins to pill himself, where he's like, is my concept of femininity and my whole deal where all I see is the sexualization of these women, am I to blame for their deaths? And I think someone should tell him yes, just to see what happens.
But he does it as Gollum, because he says, would they have felt the need to impress Franklin Cheeks? I'm like, why are we talking in third person suddenly? What's going on?
I do like his attempt at a clumsy pass at a funeral.
Yeah, he's really going for that wedding crasher's funeral crasher thing, where he thinks maybe she'll be sad enough to be horny for him, but that would have to be a very sad funeral. I just don't. I get the feeling that Franklin C. Cheeks is a virgin because he's given off a lot of virgin energy.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Did we touch on the fact that both Ashlyn and Ashley are buried next to each other?
I was just going to mention that.
Was that, it's a 2-for-1?
It was a 2-for-1. Their caskets are right next to each other.
I mean, Gina.
As in life.
How long have we been doing the show? Nearly 7 years. One of the first crazy things we found out about is that in the wikis for the Friday the 13th movies, before we started talking about them, as people started cleaning them up, there was this idea that couples in the Friday the 13th universe who were killed with one another were buried not with one another, on top of
in the same casket.
or the same gravesite with two caskets on top of one another. Like one was a top, one was a bottom for eternity in a graveyard. Was the connection that someone was trying to put out there. And then we talked about it. When we would go back to look at it again, suddenly it was scrubbed. So if there's any influence we've had, it's that whoever was jacking off to the idea of dead camp counselors being buried on top of one another, we ruined it for him.
It's like time to delete my wiki entry.
It's weird that people would get off on that.
It is.
Maybe the ultimate would be 2 pairs of blood-soaked women's underwear buried together in the same grave. See, Dennis, I'm just trying to, it's a hat on a hat on a hat, maybe. I don't know.
True, but if you had been putting those hats on your website, it would be worth a lot more.
Teen roller coaster tragedies that end up with one person who was on the roller coaster.
There was only so much they could learn from Ask Jeeves.com. So this is also where we get our PSP mention by Lewis, which made me beyond thrilled. We get the girls mentioning the iPods and Lewis dropping the PSP bomb there.
Yes, and we see a lot of Razor phones at a certain point. Yes. It's screaming 2005.
This will never be dated.
No, this technology will live forever. They're right on the cusp. We learn that Wendy has not attended the funeral directly. She's way off in the distance. She didn't want to alarm anyone with her presence. She calls Kevin over, and then Kevin reveals that he has been trying to, quote unquote, feel his ex-girlfriend's spirit. And I'm just wondering
if you know what I'm saying.
I was going to say, there's a word for that, you know.
Yeah. Exactly what is he masturbating with to feel that? Because Kevin, again, also not a researcher, does not strike me as much of a I need to commune with a ghost. Like what he really wants is that Ghostbusters, I'm having a blowjob from a ghost situation.
He's having some Dan Aykroyd fantasies. And all of this, I might add as well, they're standing over Jason's grave marker, which is clearly printed on a piece of like shiny black PVC plastic.
Yes. These days we could have that printed off by a 3D printer and it looked somewhat convincing. But
the prop department did not go all out on this scene.
It doesn't quite hold up in HD. Let's just put it that way. But, you know, they were trying. So he's like, this is a whole pattern. And she's like, I think you're right. I have all these photographs. She drags out a fucking 9/11 reference.
Yeah. So I meant to ask you guys this. So this, by my estimation, probably the film was shot like 3.5 to 4 years after 9/11. And I don't get precious about anything for the most part, but I was like, oh no, you're making this a plot point. And I went on Google, I did a ton of research. I couldn't find anything that indicated that people were like, no, you shouldn't have done that. No. But it feels like that had to have been the case.
I think it's important that they never say the words like Twin Towers or 9/11.
They just go, look, a shadow.
Yeah. For all we know, like they didn't even have the photograph there. It's like an ADR thing and they just do insert shots. I'm not sure about it. It seems wiggy to me.
Yeah, it's like the horror movie version of like the flea market airbrush T-shirt that's got like the Twin Towers and the silhouette of the bald eagle crying layered over it. Like, just you couldn't have handled this any more incorrectly.
Yeah,
and it seems to me like it was something they found in the edit where they go, you know what this scene needs? We didn't shoot it this way, but you know what this scene needs? 9/11.
Let's make it topical.
Yeah,
let's you know what'll goose this in the arm.
Yeah, so they just went out and put some insert shots of them holding the Twin Towers because you're right, they don't mention the Twin Towers, the plane crash, 9/11 specifically. She just says, "And look at this shadow."
Yeah,
could be referring to anything.
At best, it is doing what Milhouse's dad did with his solo album. They're trying to borrow an emotion.
Exactly.
Yep. Exactly.
That is a joke squarely just aimed at Scott Burklin.
And I appreciate it, sir. So this is also, though, where we learn that if a picture frame cracks in like old-timey photos, that's probably where you got shot because that's their explanation of Lincoln.
That's cheat. They did their own research, and this is what they found.
Exactly.
In
between vaccination research, they wrote this up.
And we also learned that Kevin knows where SpongeBob SquarePants lives. And Wendy goes, "I'm so embarrassed you know that." Where the fuck else would SpongeBob live? Like, it's in the fucking theme song. Like, he lives in a pineapple under the fucking sea. It's the first line in the song.
It is the weirdest, hardest left turn where you're like, here's a photo of 9/11.
Yeah.
And here's a SpongeBob joke.
So she's like, "Oh, I'm a little woozy." He's like, "You should eat." She's like, "Oh, let's go through a drive-through so no one will see us talking about this." Like, anyone would believe you. So, okay, fine. They get in line for this. They barely miss a tow truck. This is the weirdest one. It just doesn't make any particular sense. They barely miss a tow truck. This somehow causes a different truck to just roll down a hill. I'm not sure how that happens.
Yeah, but it rolls down the hill for like 10 minutes.
Oh,
it takes
for a very long time.
Forever.
A different delivery truck blocks them in so that they are stuck inside of their pickup truck during this entire sequence, and a arguing couple's behind them. They finally get that couple out of the way, but it's too late for them to reverse. So Kevin kicks out a window. They jump out of the front window onto the ground, where it's revealed that Wendy's funeral attire also shows 4 inches of lower tummy. This is very important. And
you want to be respectful but hot, I think, is the message.
Not, again, evoking the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, which someone shows up to that the first funeral dressed the hottest anyone will appear in the entire movie for no reason. So anyways, that big old delivery truck with no driver actually smacks into the pickup truck. That sends the pickup truck's engine into a car and kills the driver. Who is that driver?
Lo and behold,
Franklin C. Cheeks.
Franklin C. Cheeks, who apparently, went to a funeral, decided, I'm going to pick me up a Whopper. Immediately thereafter.
I'm so mournful and starving.
I'm so mournful, I'm going to flip the bird at the people behind me who are frantically honking their horn at me.
Yes.
Not going to look to see what the problem might be or anything.
No. He has no problems. His problem is they only gave him 2 ketchups and he asked for many more. But that's okay. There's going to be plenty of red everywhere when the engine block of that pickup truck goes through the back of his brain, including a stutter, which the engine's just like,
Yes.
I got one more piece of energy that I have to release that splatters blood all over Wendy's face for the first time.
Okay, Frankie's was the most nonsensical, I think, in the grand scheme of things. But I, like, from a makeup standpoint, from an effects standpoint, it was my favorite death, I think,
a great death
in the series. It really is.
It is fun. What I think this movie does is it has very explosive, fun deaths. And so I think if you're just watching it for enjoyment, you're going to get enjoyment out of it. It's when you start taking notes.
It's when you pay attention and such.
Yes. And so another one of their friends is down. Lewis would be next. They determined by looking at the omen-like photographs, that something including sultans and scimitars will be involved. And so they discover that Kevin discovers that Lewis has been recruited by a state school called the Sultan. So they go to the training room. And again, I think this entire death can be laid at no one is maintaining this weight room.
No.
If there had only been a maintenance guy.
Yeah, what is this town with this problem with you properly maintaining equipment?
I don't know. Like if Sawsville, USA, Canada is the kingdom in which anyone can get sleeping gas, Final Destinationville is just like has so many maintenance problems. It just no one is maintaining the airports. No one is maintaining the roads. No one is maintaining state school football weight rooms.
This is Patrick. This is what happens when you vote libertarian.
That's true. Everyone is making their own way here, and they are free. They are very, very free, and that causes their death a lot of the time.
If they ever get around to another one and wrap it up, that's what it's going to boil down to: is the villain was poor maintenance the whole time. So, Patrick, you did jump past one thing that I want to point out, and this is related to Lewis's death. The aftermath of Lewis's death is when we are introduced to Polanski and Clark. Detectives they are on the job.
Yes.
They are gonna figure this out, except for the fact that they never do.
They never do. They never speak. They're also beat cops. They have on uniforms. They're not detectives. This is a Chips Adam 13 level. The rookie. These beat cops are going to solve the case.
They're paying attention.
Yes.
There are great pains gone through to show that they are paying attention.
We don't know exactly what the case is or what they're going to solve, but
they're on it.
They're scowling. They mean business.
Yeah, they see aside this joint and they're like, well, these two people have to be involved. After all, a bear claw poked a person in an eye and they dropped their weights, and that shook scimitars loose, which cut the weight machine's cables. And then Lewis goes, I'm going to live forever, and pushes the weight machine up and smashes his own head. And they're like, we need to bring those two in for questioning.
That's
how
it.
The fuck
Bring in
does that
Polanski
work?
and Clark.
Well, they're the only ones that had blood splattered on their faces.
Yes.
It must
Blood
be their
splatter
fault.
number 2.
They have their eye on death. That's all I will say.
Yes, they're going to bring in the Grim Reaper come hell or high water. And I do love that when Wendy and Kevin leave the school has given them like clothes from the campus bookstore, and they're carrying their gore-soaked clothes in clear plastic bags. Like, do you think that brain comes out if you take it to a dry cleaner?
Just throw them away. Those clothes are no good.
But you're not wearing that again. Come on.
Am I wrong? Was that her funeral attire that she was wearing?
No,
because
it is a different day.
It's a different crop top.
I was going to say, otherwise it's a hot outfit. Like, I don't blame her.
It's another outfit that also exposes a lot of her tummy. What are you going to do? So now after this, they determined the next two people that are in danger are Ian and
Ian's girlfriend,
Aaron. Yeah.
Again, these two people, we barely ever see them separated. They've given them similar names. They both have pop punk haircuts for no particular reason. And they work at the danger store, where everything around them is dangerous.
Which is it's like a Home Depot, but also they appear to be the only people that work there.
Yes. Well, it's after closing. That's the time where you need to kill pigeons with a nail gun, Gina.
Yes. That was my note. Stay classy. Final Destination 3. Shooting pigeons with a nail gun.
That can't possibly be in the employee handbook. When trying to clear out pigeons, please use our shiniest nail gun. So they have a very philosophical debate that goes on for nearly forever. And I'm not going to bore everyone with it because it's basically Ian going, this is all BS. And I'm going, you have to listen to this. I'm constantly covered in gore. The Goldberg machine here is very lengthy. So I'm going to hit the highlights. Loose nails to a magnet pole that causes a chain to start unfurling, and a box drops. That chain gets hooked on to the box somehow and causes the box to hit the accelerator of the forklift. That forklift goes through a display of hammers. The hammer then causes the lift lever to raise. The lift pushes over a bunch of shelving units that Mummy 1999 go boom, 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 boom. And Wendy senses this, pulls Ian out of the way, so death skips him. But Aaron, unfortunately, is not so lucky. It's now gone on to her. And her Rube Goldberg's very simple. She slips on some sawdust, falls backwards, and gets nailed through the back of her head with a nail gun.
Yeah, so the elaborate Rube Goldberg lead up does not pay off in the slightest or yield anything.
Yeah, there's a lot of teases in this movie.
Yes. We're given a lot of scenarios, and then they're like, forget that. And I guess I get it. I guess it's a swerve, but...
We even get a fake out with like an upright ripping saw.
Yes.
That discount Jamie Kennedy almost falls on, and then he doesn't. And yeah.
Is sawdust that slippery? Because I can't say I'm like a constant woodworker, but it doesn't feel to me like sawdust is a slippery
I always
substance.
thought sawdust was like something you use to take care of things that one could slip on.
Yes.
I don't think it's that slippery. Otherwise, your local Cracker Barrel, you'd be having so many injuries every day.
And those injuries are now caused by alcohol, not just sawdust
on the floor.
It is good for cleaning up Wendy's blood spatter, which is constantly happening. So
she just dips her face in sawdust, and what do you know? Bob's your uncle. Her face is now clean.
She's a regular down at the Home Depot.
She does get a few dots of blood on her face. Not a full thing, but at a certain point, you just, like Gina said, she should be wearing a face guard at this point.
They have those at the Home Depot.
They do.
Yeah.
And she never picks one up.
No,
That's
she's
the
Not
irony.
a one. Because face shields don't really offer you any real protection. And so there we go.
I've done my
our own
research.
research.
Yes. And the great thing about Wendy's death is that we get more of Polanski and Clark staring like they're going to do something, but don't worry, it won't pay off. So it's fine.
And they don't talk, and we don't want them to. They're silent kings. That's the way we want them to be.
That's right. We respect and stand our silent kings.
We don't want to pay them the extra money to have them say lines.
Polanski and Clark, not in the budget.
Nope. It is at this point that I wrote down, where the fuck are anyone's parents? These are supposedly high school aged people. And
There's not a single parent to be found.
No.
In this movie. None.
Wait, no, that's not true. That's not true. I remember this now. When they leave the police station, Kevin's dad is there to pick him up.
Yes.
And
so
and
one.
I remember.
One
I
parent.
remember this because of the line that he has. His dad has, which is,
I'm Kevin's dad. I'm here to pick you up.
You know what? I don't think. No, there was no lines. He had no lines. It was a wide shot of him standing in front of his car, and then that was it. There was.
And
no,
you're sure it wasn't Polanski on Clark's shoulders, like with a big trench coat on,
like two children with a trench coat? Yeah, sure. No, that makes a lot of sense.
No, that's Kevin's dad. He's really tall.
There's only one answer for this, and that is everyone's parents are actually in old age homes and not allowed to drive themselves.
That would scan, I think, based on their obvious age.
Yes.
But the fact that Wendy and Julie's parents never show up and they're not even mentioned, like they live on a house by themselves. They live alone.
Like there's never a scene where like Wendy's mother says, "Are you all right?" or anything like that. Just like nothing.
No.
Her daughter's boyfriend, died in a horrific accident that she was there to see, and like there's just not a single moment. Listen, there's not an extra, for better or for worse, there's not an extra ounce of fat in this movie to be found.
No,
just like everything that
that's true.
Like there's no extraneous dialogue. There's no extraneous characters. It's just, it's set up and execution within like an hour and 25 minutes.
Yes. It's a very lean slice of mutton.
Your pithy Final Destination 3 will give you that.
And so Kevin does what we would all do after we've witnessed death after death after death after death. And that's go to your local tricentennial celebration, which seems to have been sponsored by the Danger Factory because everything about this setup is dangerous to the fucking max.
Yeah, six high school students have died in the past week. Let's throw a carnival.
That's right.
And surround it with broken bottles.
Well, listen, much like Jaws's need for Amity Island to have a 4th of July celebration, otherwise everyone will go broke. Final Destinationville has to have a tricentennial. Otherwise, they are going to be all on disability and assistance for the entire winter, Gina.
So you're saying this film was missing a greedy mayor, Patrick, is really what it boils down to.
If we could add one character that I think would really help here, it would be a greedy mayor. This is when we get I think one of the only other people who ended up with a career as a brief cameo here. Schitt's Creek's Dustin Milligan shows up. I looked at the cast list ahead of time. I'm like, oh, Dustin Milligan is in this. And I kept looking and looking and looking and looking. And it turns out he's just one of the sparkler wielding troublemakers who Kevin chases off. But you barely see this kid. It's unfortunate. Dustin Milligan, actual good actor, but we're not going to see him here. So this is when those two cops show back up. Sawville, USA's Canada's finest, who are here to, slap handcuffs on the Grim Reaper. And then I just, like, what is the point? Like, what do they think is going to happen? Like, these things have been witnessed by dozens of people at this point. You can't arrest an accident.
Polanski and Clark are on it, damn it. They're going to see this through.
So we get a setup for another death here for Kevin. It involves a pole, a decorative cannonball, a wood block supporting a trailer with fireworks in it. When the fireworks start to go off, it rocks the trailer. Now, Wendy has seen the photograph now of Kevin. It looks like a bright light in her face. She's like, fireworks. So she shows up, and it turns out that Julie, her younger, and I'll put that in Dick Fingers' sister, was also on the roller coaster. So she is actually in danger. And so she runs there. I'm sorry. I have to stop this Rube Goldberg to ask a question of everybody.
Yeah.
During this fireworks sequence, we see them wandering through the crowd looking for one another. And we see background actors, and they're all clapping continuously for a fireworks display. like every boom is worthy of its own applause. They're like, boom, oh, boom, oh, look at that one. Look at that. Oh, did you see that one? Yes, I'm continuing to clap like a maniac. Is that bad?
I think that was poor direction given to them by the second AD, who said, just stay busy. Here, just everybody clap. When I raise my hand, everybody clap. All right,
Exactly.
now do it again.
Fireworks and fireworks and fireworks.
Yeah, you just like ooh and ah and look up. You don't have to clap continuously like you're in the audience at Cannes and you just saw a mediocre wine vampires movie. Like, who fucking cares? You don't have to congratulate every explosion.
Well, you don't want any of the other explosions to feel bad if they weren't congratulated.
I like to think they were clapping for Polanski and Clark. Yes, woohoo! They're on it.
Our saviors have arrived. So back to Death's design. These fireworks are setting off a very agitated horse. And then those two sparkler wielding troublemakers decide to place cherry bombs behind that horse, because what's the worst that could happen? And then we learn what the worst that could happen. A runaway horse starts tromping through this crowd of people, dragging a sharp wooden stake. Now, no one would call me the greatest planner, but if you're trying to keep a horse in place during a fireworks display, I don't think a thin wooden stake is the way I'm going to do it.
And again, it's like, who is monitoring this? Why do you have a horse nearby when they're setting off a fireworks display?
Yeah, tie that motherfucking horse to a cannon.
Just put him in a trailer or something.
Where are the adults in this town? And I don't mean the leads.
Truly, this entire town is without adult situation.
Just inspection failure after inspection failure.
This is like that. Remember that one reality show where they put small children in an old West town and they said, the next 30 days you're all in charge. And they shut down the show after 14 days. This is what would happen if they just kept it going. So I'm sorry. I think the other thing is all the people are so busy clapping at the fireworks that they never notice that this runaway horse is behind them. They just like only notice it after it directly comes into eye.
That's
view.
right.
Well, and Julie has her head ripped out of her body. Oh no, just kidding. She's dragged by a horse by her neck and somehow that doesn't happen.
Yes, she pulls again another Indiana Jones, but by her neck, behind this rampaging horse. And then we get a sequence which I literally gasp, because those two cops managed to pull over a runaway horse. Now, does this horse just inherently have a deep respect for law enforcement? Is that why he pulls over briefly?
It backs the blue.
You all laughed at Polanski and Clark. This is where they pay off.
This is, yes.
Horses respect them.
Yes. Yeah, well, it doesn't last. The horse is like, oh, wait a second. It's you two guys? Fuck y'all. He doesn't have middle fingers, but they're implied. And he takes off in a different direction. And meanwhile, while Julie's just like on the ground, like, oh, that was crazy, she doesn't take the rope off her neck. And she gets dragged in a different direction the other way. And she gets dragged towards this old-fashioned metal spike contraption wagon. I don't know what that is. Is that
was for spiking the crops, I think.
For sure. And so Kevin grabs a sword, which I'm assuming is decorative, but okay. I don't come to Final Destination 3 for realism. He grabs this dude's sword and he's like, hey, I was using that. He wasn't. And he runs over and he chops the rope just in time before Julie takes a head full of spike. And then as she's trying to, put her windpipe back into the place where it's supposed to go, Wendy's like, tell me who was on the roller coaster next to you? Who was on the roller coaster next to you? And she's like, Perry, my friend who was excited someone wrote in her yearbook. And Perry shows up.
Yes. Remember Perry? Of course, no one does.
No one does. She's totally inconsequential. She had maybe 3 lines before this. Anywho, via this horse, Perry takes a flag through the torso, launched by that rope and horse somehow. I'm not sure how that works.
Well, for those of you who've not seen it, she doesn't take a flag through the torso. It's the flag pole.
Yes.
It's slightly less absurd than what you just painted the picture of.
I was being too rough on it. You're right.
Okay.
Dennis. Yes. And that is where Winstead takes another fucking face full of blood. And it's just like, this has got to be someone's thing. There's just no fucking way someone at some point she has to turn to her agent, a representative on set, and go, can one of these deaths not involve gore in my face? And they're like, no, you signed the contract, honey. Sorry.
Do you think she and the director had maybe like a Bruce Campbell, Sam Raimi thing going on where it's like, no, I just like to screw with him and see how bad I can make it for him?
Well, that Raimi situation is very collegial. They've known each other forever. Whereas this feels like someone's like, no, it's got to be red blood on her face. We gotta see it.
I'll be in my trailer watching the playback.
I'll be in my bunk, quite literally. Why are you in the edit room every time we're editing these particular sequences? No reason at all. Please continue. Snapshot.
The poor editor is like, now I have to go do foot shots for Quentin Tarantino.
So, after this, they're like, oh my God. Kevin is then, in a moment, we all stood up and cheered ourselves. Finally, the clapping makes sense. Kevin is kicked by a horse. He's kicked into a kebab table. A kebab in the aftermath is launched from that table and punctures a propane gas line. The propane tank catches fire for reasons. And Wendy pulls his face out of the way, kinda. He still gets burned, but not 3rd degree burned. He gets like 2nd degree burned from that explosion, sadly. But guess who's here, everyone? Ian is here to save the day.
That's right. Ian, discount Jamie Kennedy, who is now a villain for some reason.
Well, I guess they gave him the rundown. And part of it is, okay, if you save someone and skip them, then the people who were supposed to be killed will be saved. And so he figures, if I kill Wendy and she's the one who died last on the roller coaster, I will save everyone else. And no one. And
they assume that he causes Wendy's death because his last name is McKinley.
Yes.
By the way, and she's wearing a McKinley shirt. Yeah.
Yes. It's I mean, people talk about details. They don't really matter.
And you don't get that earlier in the movie. He complains that he has the same last name as his school.
Yeah.
And it's like, why is this worth mentioning? Is that a big deal to have the same last name as the school you go to? But as it turns out,
realize this in his senior fucking year.
Yeah, wait
a minute.
It's like he just looked at his yearbook, like McKinley.
Get the fuck out of here.
Why I oughta.
But that block of wood that was knocked out earlier is finally coming into play. Like some continuity person's like, we got to do something with this. And the sawed off back of a pickup truck is where they're launching fireworks that are covered in tinfoil.
Which again, I mean, launching fireworks from the back of a pickup truck.
But not even the pickup truck that's attached to the truck part. They sawed it fucking off and put a block of wood underneath it. That is not cool. That you should not be allowed to launch fireworks after this. Which maybe they are. I mean, it's a very dangerous town. So Ian's like, I've showed up here and I'm going to shoot you. And Wendy's like, I don't think this is going to work out the way you want it to. And the firework trailer dips forward and a row of 6 fireworks launch at that very moment and shoot out the controls of a giant boom lift. Is that what they're called?
Well, it's a bit of a swerve here because you think that the fireworks are going to shoot directly into Ian.
Yeah.
And they zoom past him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he thinks he's invincible. And of course, no, they hit into this boom lift that's right behind him.
Yeah. And what it has on the top of it looks like a basketball hoop backstop for some reason.
They're retiring the town flag. I don't know. It won a championship. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, that thing just like swats him like a hand with a fly.
Well, and they set it up like it's almost like a guillotine. Like it's going to be like, once again, Final Destination 3 subverting our expectations. It looks like it should just bisect him.
Yeah.
Like that pane of glass in is it 13 Ghosts?
Oh yeah,
yeah. And yet it just smushes him kind of and breaks him in half, which this movie loves to break people in half.
It does. It likes to smush parts of them and leave the rest. It likes leftovers.
But he does flip us off in true 90s/early 2000s horror fashion.
And so it is after this that we get the card 5 months later. We're in a subway. It's showtime, and someone's playing a song that they've gone back to a couple different times. I don't know what the song is. I don't care. But Wendy's very freaked out. She tries to get off the subway train. She can't. Turns out her sister's on the same train. Well, that's a coinky dink. When she tries to introduce them to her college roommates, I don't know. They all live together in a polycule. I don't know what their deal is. One of them is Corey Monteith from fucking Glee. He looks like a baby in this. He's the youngest person by a country fucking mile in this thing.
Yeah, she's like, how would you not know your sister's in the same city as you?
Yeah.
Like, she just casually runs into her on the subway.
Like, you're probably following her MySpace. She probably posted about it. That's what we were all doing in 2005, posting our locations on MySpace.
That's right.
And not only is Julie there, but Kevin's fucking there. And he's like, oh, I came for the game. What game? We're not told.
Well, the game that apparently has people dressing up like Kratos from
God of War.
God of War. Yeah. Because the guy that runs into Julie that stops her from getting off the train, or I'm sorry, Wendy, like has half his face painted like he's Kratos. It's very strange.
And he's the one who tried to throw away a candy bar, but it turns out it falls down on the tracks. And then a rat's like, I'm going to eat that candy bar. And that rat gets electrocuted by some loose wires because this town is just as fucked up as the last one that Wendy left.
Telling you, maintenance people.
Now, why that electrical charge causes a track shift ahead of them when they've already left that station? That I don't fucking know. I can't.
Right.
I don't know how trains work, everyone.
That didn't track for me. That would have been like 2.5 miles up the track that it affected. That makes absolutely no sense.
No, I'm no train expert, but
I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that's probably not how it works. Although there is less of the lights going out in the middle of this train trip as there were in Scream 6, though, Gina. So there's some amount of realism for you.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, if a little piece of garbage would would derail a subway train, there would be constant death and disaster every day.
You would not be alive right now. Every rat who got electrocuted, crashed a train. There's just no fucking way.
Also, I don't think it's believable that somebody would throw away half a candy bar. God damn it. If you were raised the way that I did, you finished that whole thing. It's chocolate. That's good stuff, man.
What, you can't take a candy bar on the fucking train? That's not really how subways work.
As my dad would say, if you don't eat that for dinner, you're having it for breakfast.
And so during this crash that eventually happens, because the train separates, it looks like they might have reused some footage from Money Train. I'm not particularly sure. Julie gets obliterated by a train wheel. She just gets cartoonishly splattered, which of course ends up on Wendy's face. Then Kevin gets thrown into a window and somehow bisected. Gina, does this count as a get bunked? Because he goes through the window and then dies.
Does it count if it's an accident, or does somebody else have to
It's not an accident. This is Death's design. Death wanted him to die this way.
Well, yeah, but would somebody else have to pull him through the window or whatever to count it as a get bunked?
Death pulled him through the window and gravity.
Fair point.
Yes. So I'm saying it's a get bunked.
If you want that bad for it to be a get bunked, then let it be a get bunked.
Gina, this is the part of the show that's my sexual gratification. I need to be bunked, otherwise it doesn't quite work for me.
This to me had a whole vibe like it was like a space shuttle or something. I was like, why is there a vacuum outside the train?
Yeah, he just got like sucked out of the window, like it's suddenly like 30,000 feet in the air.
Yeah,
the end of Alien 3. He's going to be sucked through a pinhole.
So, this, and then she, gets launched out of the broken half of this train. She breaks a leg and she's on the tracks and she's trying to move. And oh no, she's on the other subway train's tracks. And then she gets a face full of train, but rewind. Oh no, it was all a vision, but it's too late. They can't get off. And then the movie just goes, all right, we've had enough, and goes to black.
Yeah.
It's like we're in an hour 30. Stop right here.
You've seen enough. Have some Tommy Lee.
Singing the most morbid fucking version of Love Train I've ever heard in my life. Like,
it was
truly
painful.
The license holders of that song should sue, and they should win. It's terrible. But speaking of terrible things that happen to people, it is time to choose our own death venture. And that is where we decide, of the many deaths portrayed in this motion picture, if we were forced to die in one of those ways, which one would we choose and why? Up for bid here, we have cooked alive inside a tanning bed ×2. We have die in a roller coaster somehow. I mean, a bunch of people fall off and shit. Like, there's that. We have a shredded brain via truck engine. We have heads smashed in by weights. Now, you manipulate those weights, so you have to be very strong in order to do that. You could get nail gunned in the back of the head, flagpoled to death, squashed by a boom lift cage, obliterated by a train wheel, bisected by train window in a get bunk situation, in my estimation, and subway train to the face. And our guests, of course, always go first. Scott, we came to you second for your final destination revelation. So now we're going to you first for choose your own death venture. What say you?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm tempted to say Lewis and the Weights only because, it'd be instantaneous. Mm-hmm. So, not a lot of time to think about it.
Yeah.
But I think I'm going to go with Kevin in the roller coaster fantasy at the beginning, because I like the idea of going, you all thought I was going to get impaled. I'm going to get split in half. Take that, everybody.
Sure.
So, yeah, I'll go with Kevin in the roller coaster fantasy.
Okay. All right. Dennis, what say you?
Well, I don't know. I was going to say flagpole through the chest, just because do I get to choose which flag?
Yes.
I'm always remembered by.
That's the one thing about this. You're choosing your death and which flag you would be. Okay, you would they would have to saw off of you to put you in a coffin.
I did all of my own research, so it would be the "Don't Tread on Me" flag.
Sure.
I think would be great, but I'm not going to go that way.
Perfect.
I'm not going to go that way. I'm going to go with the weightlifting one.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with the weights smashing my head because, I'm known for all the working out that I do, all the exercise.
You're known for big muscles.
Yeah, my big muscles in all the right places. So, no, I'm obviously not known for that. I'm a weakling guy. So, yeah, to die at the hands of a weight machine, I think that's a good way to get sent off.
Yeah, you'll find that to everyone that you're the big, strong boy you've all been telling us you are on your website.
Makes people think you cared about yourself, and that's important.
Gina, it's your turn. What do you say?
I do like the nail gun through the back of the head death. I think that's it's pretty badass. And also my family can sue my employer for the many OSHA violations that are taking place and live comfortably in their time of mourning.
They do get a parachute out of this. I really do like that part. That's great. That's a good thing. There are a lot of quick deaths here, that's for sure. But I think I have to go with shredded brain via truck engine, because I would finally die like I lived, waiting for my burger to come out.
Would you? But you have to wear the no fat chicks medallion.
Oh, 100%. I mean, people know how I do this podcast, naked and with that trucker hot chick medallion.
If there's one thing Patrick's known for.
Everyone knows it. Everyone talks about it. So before we go, Scott and Dennis, tell everyone where they can find your show and what it's about.
It's Inside the Idiot Box. It's a podcast where Scott and myself and our good friends Jeff Griffith and Josh Parker choose random old television shows that we haven't seen in decades, or maybe have never seen. Maybe they're shows that we that we hear about and they go, hey, that'd be a great show to watch together and make fun of. But the point of the show is just to see if these shows that we remember so fondly still hold up after many, many years. And 9 times out of 10, the answer is no.
And much like Final Destination 3, we watch one episode and form an opinion about the entire series based on that, and never watch another episode.
That's our prerogative.
No.
So yeah, you can check it out. It's on all the podcast platforms. We do have socials, but we're not really up on it all that much. Inside the Idiot Box at Instagram, and Inside Idiot Box at Twitter, because there are too many characters to add the damn you Elon Musk.
So one
if
thing
you bought Twitter
fix.
Blue,
Everything
that
else has
$8
been
a month
going
would get
great
you to
there.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, and we have 2 seasons in the bag so far, and we're working on a 3rd. We took a little bit of time off, so by the time people hear this episode, we still maybe haven't debuted season 3, but it's coming. I promise. We recorded some, and it's coming soon. So,
and there's some fun stuff in there. We do a Hardy Boys Halloween special with our very own Patrick Hamilton.
That's true.
Yeah, which is a lot of fun.
A lot of fun.
I picked an episode that I thought was one thing, and it turned out to be something else. But the good news is you get to hear the hell of it from Phantom of the Paradise sung over and over and over
again.
And every time you see the Castle Dracula, a werewolf howls.
That's true. And then every time that happens, we drink. It's fun. Right. It's a game.
We almost died. And that is Inside the Idiot Box. Gina, where can people find you on these here internets?
I write about television and movies at thespool.net. I have a Substack in which I also write about mostly movies there. That's GinaWatchesThings.substack.com. And I am on Twitter under Gina Does Things.
Yeah. Do it today, people. Check it out. You know where to find us on the socials. Rate and review us on iTunes. Just tell them that we're like the best thing ever. Like, you don't have to give your real opinion. You can lie and say we're great. We'd love to hear from you that way. Support us on Patreon, where we do special things like we have a chat by chat where we answer your questions. We do bonus episodes every single month, and every other month, your listener's choice. And we do commentaries, and we're talking through and over Friday the 13th movies right now for your listening pleasure. But that just about does it for everybody. Don't worry, folks. The body count will continue. For myself, for Dennis, for Scott, and Gina, bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Dennis Satterfield and... Oh, fuck. What is going on with my goddamn nose? Hold on a second.
Are we so old that you don't remember our names?
No, it's written right in front of me, Dennis. This is the thing.
So maybe
I should
there's
be able
something
to read what's right in front of me.
It's not
I'm
wrong with
so
your
You're still doing better
by
than
my
Jeff.
nose. I can't
It's your
pay attention.
eyes. If you can't read, it's your eyes.
Yes,
Don't read with your nose.
Well, that's how you read, Dennis. Do I have to draw a map? Come on.
Listen,
there
did you
are
smell
5
something?
sentences. Your nose reads. Come on, man. All right, here we go.